There she goes.
Yep.
All
Hi,
right.
Amy.
Hey, Amy.
So this week, it's Nadia's turn.
Hello.
It's Naria's turn to do the discussion. Please take it away, Naria. No opening monologue needed for this week's video.
Yes. Okay. So, on this week, we're going to be discussing a scenario that happened in the event of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo Parade. So, I'm just going to explain the bio that she gave us about the parade, and then I'll explain the scenario that we're going to do.
Okay.
So the bio that she wrote is: It is December 1st, 2018. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo Parade next year is scheduled on Saturday, March 2nd, 2019. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo drew over 1.6 million visitors this year, with approximately 250,000 spectators of the parade, which kicks off at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo this weekend before the doors open at the Reliance Stadium. The parade next year will be at 10 a.m. at the intersection of Smith and Texas Streets in downtown Houston. There will be 20 floats in the parade, 15 commercial wagons, 4 big balloons, 18 college and high school marching bands, 13 trial rides with 6,000 riders and multiple dignitaries riding in vehicles. Approximately 10,000 United States flags will be distributed to spectators along the parade route. The parade will be led by the Marine Color Guard. The parade generally lasts 2 hours and ends at the intersection of Walker and Smith Streets. The parade will be preceded by the ConocoPhillips 10K/5K walk run. Starting line is located at the Smith and Texas Streets. All runners are to be at the starting line at 9:25 a.m. The 10K 5K run course follows the parade route on Texas and Travis Streets and detours from that point, resulting in the runners walkers clearing the parade route before it begins. So basically, I see we have there's like a show and rodeo, the parade, and the run. So we have three different events, I think.
No, for us, I think it's just the parade and the
Oh, it's
run.
just the parade and the run? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Yes. Okay, so we're gonna talk about scenario 12, which is the explosive attack, a bombing using improvised explosive devices. And
Okay.
we kind of already seen something like this in Boston with the run. And so I thought, like, usually in large crowds, I would figure bombers would go after large crowds or a big event
Mhm.
because it would affect the most people. So,
Yes, and that would be a soft target.
yes.
Because one of the things I learned in unconventional threats was that, which was kind of seemingly obvious, is that they're going
Hmm.
to look for terrorists are going to look for potential soft spots that they
Uh-huh.
can attack, and of course that would be some place that there's not a whole lot of security.
Right.
I mean, the only real security you might have there would be the Marine Corps color guard and maybe some police officers blocking off certain intersections.
Hmm. That's
So
true.
I think there's actually two potential. Um, yeah, I would think I would think a combination of things too. Like not only do you have the bombing threat, but you have the fact that the guy might use his car as the bomb.
That is
Mhm.
true. I didn't even think of that.
If you think about it, we saw it happen in we see what's happening in Europe a lot, or maybe not necessarily a lot, but notably with how you got terrorists using cars. Then you have the fact that in the Middle East you got these guys putting bombs in the cars,
Mm,
Mhm.
right.
and you know how, and unfortunately with Houston, the only way to really get around the city is in a car.
Mhm.
That is true.
Put the two together and a soft target. There's a very big threat there.
That
Right.
is right. And I was seeing on the national planning scenario PDF that she sent us, when it's describing the scenario, it also says that there's multiple suicide bombers. So I guess we could use the car as a way to be the suicide bombing instead of just putting on like a vest or anything.
Yes, because that way, because if somebody's walking around, you're probably gonna see where you're like, what's up with this guy?
Right.
You put the guy in a car, and because you're talking about guys in floats, why not use? I actually hate the fact that we have this public because now I want people getting any ideas and linking it back to me. But I think you can kind of guess where I'm going with this. I'm not going to say anything more. Dr. Denham, please, at the end of this semester, please give me authorization to delete this video so that nobody else can see this. I feel like we're giving bad people some advice, which I don't like the idea of.
Right.
It's a really bad situation. I don't like.
Okay, so so we're supposed to discuss the following: the executive summary, which is also listed in the PDF if you have it with you. So the first one on the PDF is to discuss the planning considerations, specifically addressing geographical considerations, timeline, and event dynamics. Okay.
So we're going.
What's going on?
We're going straight into just the disaster, like the actual explosive.
What's this? Is this the national? Oh,
yeah. Is that what we're supposed to do, right?
I got it.
Yeah. I just there was some stuff at the top. I didn't know if we had to talk about just the planning stuff at the top or just that part at the bottom. I was a little confused by but that's cool. I'm on board. I'm just making sure.
I see where it says tasks, like to plan out the worst case scenario. So that's where I was starting from.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm with you guys. Okay.
So the first one was the planning considerations, the timeline, event dynamics. So I guess the geographical considerations would be it's in Houston, which is largely populated, and it's also a parade / there's a run as well.
Okay, so for this, are we talking about first the plan for the response for it, or are we first talking about the plans for how a terrorist attack would happen first, and then talking about the planning for how you handle the aftermath?
I think we're talking about just the planning for how to react. I don't think we're actually going into the planning of the attack.
Okay, good. So here's my thinking is that with downtown, your main points of exit from where you would be is as far as the large, fast moving traffic. I think it's pretty much 610, if I'm not mistaken. It's pretty much. I know you got 45 and a few others, but as far as where downtown you'd be, your primary exit would be 610. All the other streets there are small, are like not fast and wide streets like that. Like they're not highways.
So you've got a few. I work right down there, so I'm really familiar with the area. But in fact, I used to. Whatever. So 45 is your major artery right there. It's 3 blocks from the start of the parade, and then you've got Memorial Drive and Allen Parkway, which are both either 6 or 4 lane roads, which it can get out traffic pretty easily as well. And then you've got a really close proximity to entrances to I-10. And then on the other side of downtown, you've got 59. But 610's a little far away from where we're talking about. It's okay. You're talking about dead center in downtown.
Because I live in the Seabrook area, it's just I can remember, including this year, I think like 2 or 3 times, like maximum that I've even gone to the rodeo, and the first few times were at the Astrodome.
So yeah, the rodeo itself, that's which they're 2 different things. So the rodeo itself takes place at right where you're thinking, right off of 610. Yeah. But this is actually downtown. So it's in all the rodeo riders, the actual horses and cowboys that ride to lead up to the rodeo, they go down Memorial Drive and then to downtown. And then that's kind of the start of the parade, is actually horses and whatnot coming in from Memorial. So it's a completely different place than where the rodeo actually is.
Okay.
Because aside from being a cowboy fan, I'm probably the least Western person in like, don't let my favorite football team fool you. I'm like I know like I love horses. They're my favorite animal. But other than that, there's nothing that says Southern about me. I mean, look at my shirt. Like there's nothing Southern about this.
Yeah. So
So
is the run around the same place where the parade is, or is that on a different?
yes, so the parade and the run actually starts about, I think it was something like 45 minutes before the parade. So basically the runners line up at the start of the parade and the run. They're the same point. And then the runners start, and then 3 blocks later, they break off and they go on their own route. And then the parade follows behind them, but then goes its own, goes a different route. So after 3 blocks, the runners are clear from the parade route. And then when the parade starts at 10, you've got a totally clear parade route.
Oh, I see.
So they're right after each other.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of the like geographical considerations, right where that is, it's tall buildings, which I know but I mean, you're in the middle of downtown. So what you think of downtown, it's right there. There are a few lower buildings and places where you can do good setups like snipers and things of that situation where you can get good eyes on the crowd. Because mixed in with those taller buildings, there's a bunch of lower ones. And then there's also going to be right around that area a few parks, open parks. One that it's going to end where the parade ends is an open park. So a lot of the volunteers and things will congregate there. But that's what you're looking at with the geographical considerations. You've got high population density because you're in downtown, plus you've got an event. And then super tall buildings and things that will block your view and actually affect your cell phone reception, because when you're down there, it's hard to get a good cell phone reception with the buildings, even in this day and age.
That is true. And then is there still like traffic? Because I know there's lots of traffic in Houston.
Yes. So I mean, I don't want to get too much into, because if we're talking about just the actual bombing itself.
Right.
So the way it's done, just like a brief, like from a police officer standpoint, months in advance, like now during this planning, we'll sit down and we'll say these intersections all need to be blocked, and you'll assign an adequate number of police officers to block those intersections. Then the officers are told, hey, guess what? You're working on rodeo or Saturday or whatever it is, rodeo Sunday, whatever it is. And then 2 or 3 hours, depending on the timing, before the parade starts, we do a roll call, and we're given maps of where we're working, marked with the exact intersection we're working on. And then we're told one communication channel. So this is the radio channel that you'll be working off of. And from that radio channel, they tell us, hey, it's an hour before the event, start blocking off traffic. Now, as Daniel mentioned, we have the added element of the cars being used as weapons. So lately, we've seen more of, they will park sanitation trucks blocking certain intersections and things like that too, so that cars physically can't get past, because you can get around one patrol car, but you can't get past 2 or 3 sanitation trucks or whatever the case may be. So from the traffic standpoint, yes, it is an issue, but when they do the planning and when the actual day of the event comes, there's barricades, patrol cars, and police officers that are strategically placed to block off any access to where there are going to be people.
Yeah, because I was going to say, not only for me, what I would do is not only put the garbage trucks in to block things, but also put a few Jersey walls up. You know what I'm talking about, right?
No.
You put a few Jersey walls up because they don't move once somebody hits them. You have to, they can easily you can easily pull them out, and that way it's like, that way you have to go through both the garbage truck, depending on how fast you're going, and so it's like, even if you get past that, you're gonna end up destroying your car on the Jersey wall.
Okay.
Because that would be my first plan. So that way it's like the guys that are doing the running and walking. The only thing that can get to them then is like something like a hand grenade or a pressure cooker. In this day and age, people are going to see that and say, "Hey, this shouldn't be here. What's going on here?"
Right.
I think we've learned by now. Hey, what's this? Told somebody this thing shouldn't be here. This pressure cook is here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the good thing is that our parade route is relatively short. I'm assuming it takes a few more blocks than just what the 2 points she was giving us, but it's fairly short. So you can in theory get the bomb dogs out there and things like that to preventative kind of stuff to if you see a backpack as in Boston or whatnot, that can be, the dogs can be around for that. So
yeah, people will generally see it. And like I said, in this day and age, I think people by now know if you see a backpack or something just laying out there where it's not supposed to be, call somebody because that's not a good thing to be sitting there.
Right.
Sure.
I agree.
And Bomb Squad is activated for all of those events. So SWAT and Bomb Squad are activated for everything major that happens like this.
Yeah, so by the time somebody sees it, somebody's already on the ground within the vicinity that can get over there,
right?
Use it and find out who the guy was that was doing it.
And then since we're talking about planning, the course of action, if that happens, is you're going to isolate that area. So you're going to get people away is our main goal. I would say would be the main goal would be to just get civilians and looky-loos away, mitigate the damage if it goes off.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so moving on to the timeline and event dynamics. This one says the initial suicide bombers self-destruct approximately 1 hour after the start of the event. So if the running comes first, and I guess somebody drives a car, I guess somebody could drive a car, like close to the scene, and it self-destructs 1 hour after it starts. Or let me see. So with you can go.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You can go.
Oh no, I was gonna say for me, it seems like the runners would be your biggest target because I don't know if it's something like 10,000 runners, and I don't know if it's in here. There's like 250,000 spectators, but so just having been around it, there's about 10,000 runners that run. So to me, that's your target is at the start line when they start, and then down Memorial as it's the parades lined up to get ready to go. You've got a whole bunch of other, if you want secondary targets, you can do that. But the other thing is the hospitals. I mean, that would, it's kind of scary that it was mentioned so clearly in here, but St. Joseph's going to be your main responder because it's right close to where you are. Yeah. So that to me would be another prime target would be St. Joseph's.
Yeah, and I thought I read that too, that one of the it says an additional series of devices is blown to the nearest emergency room. So that would also be another target.
Yeah. And with Houston tue, the medical center, you take out one, you're taking out access to a majority of them because they are so close together. So a bunch of the other responding hospitals, Memorial Hermann and Bentov and a bunch of the other trauma centers, they're like right on top of each other. So you're bare minimum going to block access if you take out one to the others.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think what that speaks to is how I say this. Now I'm going to go off a little bit of a tangent, but what I think that would also preclude is then what you're going to want is a lot of aircraft, like you seen those V-22 Ospreys in like those planes that can actually land vertical, take off and land vertically. So what I would say is have a lot of over at Ellington, have a lot of those V-22s on standby along with a lot of choppers, like every chopper that you can provide. So that if in the event, God forbid, something happens, because as she was saying, the car route is going to be screwed. So what you do is you get those V-22s, they can make you get medically equipped V-22s and some choppers and any other plane that you can find that doesn't need that much of a runway to fly over there, land, as it's well able to get a lot of people in there and fly and then fly them up there. Because like you said, the cars are going to be screwed, but you do have the aircraft option, and so that's what I'm saying. Like,
but keep in mind, if you've had an attack there, I don't know how much you want to bring people there, regardless of your method. I think your goal should be evacuation. If that is one of your targets, if that has been one of your targets, I think it should be getting people away from that area.
I agree with that.
Mind, like we're always taught, if there's one shooter, there's two. If there's two shooters, there's three. So if you've got one bomb in one hospital, you've got another bomb in another hospital. So
fair enough. But
the ones that are non-emergency, get them out.
I agree, but what I'm saying is you can still use the other nice thing about the aircraft is that you can get them to as many hospitals as possible. So, for example, like okay, maybe St. Joseph's and those are screwed. But you still have St. Luke's over in the Woodlands. So you got UTMB down in Galveston. With the aircraft, you can actually fly them down there with people on there. They're already doing the pre-checks and the triage. And then by the time they land at the hospitals, you have everybody there ready to roll, and knowing what's going on. They're able to communicate from the plane or the chopper over to those people and say, okay, here's what we got. Here's what we need help with. You just have a systematic situation. Now you need to do some drills before then, so that the military people and such know what to do. You're just varying them between each hospital they can do. And like St. John's, anyone would be sufficient. Just get them as many there. In fact, if you need to, block off the roads so you can even get like little small propeller planes that can actually land on the roads. Just get as many people there as possible, and as many responders there as possible in planes, because that's gonna be your lifeline if the hospitals in the area are screwed. You're not gonna have a lot of time with a car like those ambulances to get people to these other hospitals, especially if those hospitals are screwed. So like I said, at that point, your aircraft is your best bet.
Right.
And so I would have,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I'd have, like I said, helicopters and planes at Ellington. I'd have them at Hobby, Bush, every airport possible at that time. So it's like if something happens, you're ready, and you have every aircraft resource available. And like I said, some of those roads, not all of them, but some of those roads are at least large enough that a small plane can land on them, and they're all big enough that a chopper or a V-22 could just land like that. So I mean, as long as you're able to do that, you can get a lot of people out of there in planes and get them and aircraft and just get them out of there into the nearest hospital.
Right. Okay, to the next one. Okay, this one is mission areas activated. And since there's a long list, I guess we could just probably cover multiple in one discussion. So the areas listed are prevention, emergency assessment, emergency management or response, hazard mitigation, evacuation or shelter, victim care, investigation, and recovery. So okay. I guess I'll start.
Go ahead.
I know it's a long list. I guess we could start at well, we already covered evacuation while he was saying with the planes.
Right. And I think we kind of talked about prevention too, because I mean, you've got your police force out there and you've got 250,000 nosy eyes looking around for whatever's going on. So, I mean, that speaks a little to prevention.
And then I guess the emergency management, you kind of cover who's all out there during the event of a parade or a run. So you said we have of course we have the police department. And then I'm sure do we have military personnel?
That could be partially your Air Force, like I was talking about.
Okay.
So typically, no. Typically, it's not, other than those that are involved in the parade itself, there's not really so much a a standby from any sort of military unit. I mean, I'm sure they can easily be activated if needed, but yeah, it would be responsive for sure, like a later response.
Oh, okay, like when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then let's see, hazard mitigation. So I'm sure there'll be, from the bomb, we're going to have smoke, obviously. I guess fires could happen.
But I think the first thing that you'd want to do is to make sure that the fires don't spread, because there will be fires, because, I mean, that's part of what happens in an explosion. So what you would want to do is, first of all, make sure that, because you got a lot of buildings close together down over there, so what you're going to do is you're going to need to have firefighters at the ready, and different, and you're going to want to make sure that the firefighting equipment inside those buildings, like sprinklers, are ready to roll, so that if something happens, they can be activated and at least stall long enough that the firefighters can get in there. And again, maybe use like those aircraft that you see in the fighting wildfires. Maybe use a few of them to just drop a bunch of water on them. I mean, just throwing that off the top of my head. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily logistically possible, but just saying, here's a possibility: is use some of those big tanker planes to just drop water.
Right. That sounds like a good idea.
Well, I think, something like in terms of the fire systems working, that's super important. If it doesn't blow that apart or whatever, because however the bomb destroys stuff, but because remember, I mean, some of the stuff we talked about before was that you can't send your emergency personnel in, so the firefighters are going to be in the perimeter because they're not sure what's happening or what can potentially happen. So a lot of times they can't respond the way we expect them to put out fires. So, I mean, I think you hit on a really good point that the buildings themselves need to be able to take care of themselves as much as possible.
Yes, and at least stall long enough. And then, like I said, if needed, again, and then if needed, you get the fire people at like Ellington Airport ready, where they can be activated at a moment's notice to scramble planes in the air, to scramble firefighting planes in the air that can fly over there and drop us and at least assist that way.
True.
And I mean, I know I'm talking a lot about airplanes today, but that's partially because I'm on a plane in 2 days.
Yes. Okay, so I'm just gonna go more down the list. So left we have is victim care, investigation, and recovery. So I guess we can kind of tie victim care and recovery and kind of in the same. So obviously there are going to be injuries. I guess back from looking or like reading about articles about the Boston Marathon or actually watching it, I saw how like when people were injured, they would try to like either go to the nearest building. You can go. If you have a point.
I just figured something else out that I forgot to mention. Also, what you're going to want to do is talk to the archdiocese and other churches and say, if something happens, we're going to need priests and pastors on standby. The pastors on standby, so that, because one of the biggest things that's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of grief. So beyond just beyond all the other injuries and everything else, you're going to have a lot of mental issues happening. So that's when you're going to want the priest, you're going to want Cardinal Donato and others ready to go, so that they can get down there, so that they can be on standby as well, so that if something happens, they can.
And I think that speaks to mitigation too, because I mean, triage is going to be super important. You're going to have to your critical cases are what fatalities, critical cases, and walking wounded. You're going to have to figure that out. And again, I understand where you're coming from, but priests just add more people to be hurt, and that's like in 9/11, there was the case of the priest that was killed when someone fell on his head, trying to help.
Well, I'm saying he's not going into the situation for that reason, but what he is doing, he's in the perimeter area, so that if something, or maybe not even that, just he's able to just get to the vicinity, like the hospitals and such, and provide the mental health care needed, that that a priest can provide.
And I would think priest being priest with the media deluge that's going to happen as soon as this bomb goes off. I mean, it's immediately the media is going to be there covering the parade anyway. There's actually media that ride in it, and it's like, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Mardi Gras parades. There's literally the news station set up booths, and the parade passes by the booths, and they wave and whatever. Like it's live casted on TV in Houston. This parade is. So there's going to be media everywhere. So I would assume as a priest, it's your job to go and lend a hand out of the way where you're needed. So I mean, I think that they would take care of themselves that way. I don't think they need to be part of the
Yeah, I don't think they would necessarily need to be told that. I mean, I know a lot of priests that would go there in a heartbeat if they were called on. I mean, I know my priest certainly would. So I said they don't necessarily need to be told that, but I was just saying, wait a minute, that's another possibility. Is that I said we have a lot of churches around here, and pastors, including priests and Cardinal Donardo, would certainly be resources that you could use, because we always focus on the outer body injuries and fatalities, but we forget what's on the inside that also gets damaged and certain things like that. That's where pastoral care comes into play.
Yeah, that's definitely the longer term. I think that's vital. I think you're absolutely right.
And of course, now this is just my faith, but in my faith, we would also, of course, want the priest to be able to come in there and do last rites for those that of course, sadly move on.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I understand what you're saying, because I feel like you're probably Catholic. I'm Catholic as well.
I'm fairly devoutly Catholic.
Yeah, it's as the police officer and as the now Homeland Security person, like there's another side of that to me, because now it's one more person I've got to worry about, that I'm trying to evacuate people, and you've got one more person who's not authorized to be there trying to come in. And frankly, it's a crime scene now. This entire area is a crime scene. So I don't want anyone in there. And then I also have to go one more step further, and that's just one more way to get, in my mind, there's this priest with the robes walking into the scene. That's one more way to get a suicide bomb in there.
But do you not also have the like a police chaplain? Because I know my priest did that for a little while, and he would be saying that's already a priest, and is on standby, ready to go. And I'm thinking that's certainly possible for the cognitive situation. Is that you've already got the police chaplain there, and he's the one that can handle at least the initial parts.
Right. And during the chaos, frankly, the only thing I need for one person to understand is I need you to go here. This is where I need you to go. I'm triaging the situation. I'm trying to get everything ordered. And I don't mean to say it this way, but in that instant, in that situation, in that area, there's no time for mental health addressing. There's like, I have someone with a leg blown off. I have someone dead next to them. And then I have someone with a cut on their face. And I need to be able to say, hey, cut on the face, get a tourniquet on that leg missing. I don't care that you're mentally effed up now for the long run because you've got a dead body next to you. I need you to do X, Y, Z. So, I mean, and that's a really crass way of looking at it. But unfortunately, in that situation, everything becomes crass because you've got to accomplish your mission.
And that's where what we were saying, I guess, is that the priest would be coming in later, like once everybody's at the hospital and set to go. That's when the mental. So
yeah, that'd be more like recovery, like So that'd be
the long-term medication.
Yeah, already went into about the key implications where it discusses casualties, and it discusses casualty injuries. So y'all talk about like the mental, and like you need them to be there for you. They can go once like the scene is clear and once they're evacuated. So we kind of just covered that. Let's see. Okay, the next would be key resources needed. So I definitely think like there should be, what is it? It's like a post where the I guess it's a hotspot, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Is that? Yeah, I definitely think there should be a hotspot to where people that are able to leave the scene can go there if they need it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that's the name.
No, I know what you're saying though.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. So a command center for sure, so that it can be,
Yeah.
and then the certain triage areas, and then kind of your hot spot, cold spot, where you basically this area is off limits, and this is your main concentration of the situation, and then as it goes outwards, less and less so. But and then basically just a place like you know what now that you're saying that, I can't think of what it's called either, but like a watering hole where you can go sit down and get a drink and
like cooling area,
right? Is that what you mean?
Again?
So
but can you say
one of the other things, and I think we're talking about this, one of the other key resources that you need is what we're talking about is building codes to be up to standards to where they can fend for themselves if something happens, assuming that they're not blown to smithereens by the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's talking about not just human and equipment logistics. I'm sorry, it's not just talking about human logistics. It's talking about equipment logistics, and that would be one such equipment. Is that the buildings need to be able to fend for themselves, because all the other emergency people are going to be focused on the people first. The buildings can be rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And then there's getting the emergency response vehicles in and around as well, because I know like in the Vegas shooting, one of the things that stood out was that people were actually being transported in personal trucks and vehicles because the emergency personnel couldn't get to them. So
yeah,
that would be one resource thing we would have to set up for sure. When you mean in terms of equipment,
and that's where volunteers would be good in one sense, but you also want to be careful that you're not getting the volunteers put into dangerous situations too. But they would certainly be a resource to where they can use their vehicles to get people away. But like you said, where there's one shooting, there's possibly another or two more. You don't want to put them in dangerous situations. But if they're there, if they're able to, then people will, I would presume, would be more apt to help if they can.
And another interesting thing to that is it also has the element of, so when you've got emergency personnel working together, they can communicate and send like, hey, this hospital's at capacity, divert them here, and they can manage their resources a lot better in terms of where they can bring people. But if you've got volunteers just randomly showing up at hospitals, you're going to overload certain hospitals because they're closest, because they're more well known, as opposed to it being evenly distributed so they can handle it, like in Boston.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
and that's the thing about, like, even if you did think of the, you have to think, what if some volunteers were actually in, or what if some were like with the group that did the bombing? So you have to think of like all sides.
Well, and the scary thing is it's really easy to disguise a vehicle as an HFD ambulance. And hey, as a police officer, I'm going to wave that ambulance through. And what if that's packed with explosives in the back of it,
Right. That is true.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one was key agents who will need to be invited in the ongoing planning process for the event in preparation for your selected worst case scenario.
So the first person I would talk to would be the, I believe each state, if I'm not mistaken, has its own FEMA emergency management points of people of contact. And those would be the first people I would have in, so that they can do their, and along with the fire marshal, that they can do their inspections to say, okay, here's a fire hazard. You're going to want to adjust things accordingly so that we can easily get the firefighters in there, get that situation, get that disaster area mitigated if something should happen. So I would say somebody like the fire marshal would be one of the people that you want to get in there in the preparing stage.
So those are like all the things that you were talking about. That's kind of the technical specialist that can get in and talk about the weather, how things could that affect that, the fire, you know, how what's prone to fire and what's susceptible to all that. Behavioral people, environmental people, that's one big group that I think like in the readings and stuff is the technical specialist. And then you've got like the safety aspect of it as well. Those that can lay out the risks to all your operational resources and the safety and mitigation measures, all that kind of stuff. And then special operations, things of that nature. But I would say for sure, to me, one of the main people I would want is a rodeo representative, because there might be a lot about the rodeo, its culture, what you can expect, that, like you said, you're not country. So would you know how a country person would react? And they might be able to speak to behavioral things,
right.
you know, more than I could for sure. Just, you know, and I would want their input. I would want their input in what they expect from us.
Right. I think it'd be good to have a person who can speak to all crowds.
Mm-hmm.
Even somebody bilingual, because you never know who's in the crowd.
And I think a local media representative would be a good option as well to bring in, because the people that everybody in the Houston area knows, so that if they hear their voice, they know, okay, this person's trustworthy. We know who this guy is. He's going to tell us what we need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Yeah, I don't know in the planning stages though. I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on when you're bringing them in. Because the other thing too is you've got to be careful about what goes in the media, because some of our planning stuff, it seems mundane, but you don't want it out, because it's just basic information that someone can use to say, oh, okay, the news said this is where the command center is. That is where I'm placing my secondary device. You know, that sort of thing.
Right.
So I agree with you. I understand what you're saying, but I would be kind of cautious. I'm always cautious about what you tell the media and what you don't tell the media.
Then I think I jumped again a little bit for the next question.
For the key notification, we can go into that one. So the key notification systems, messages to the public
I mean, well, for example, you see in a lot of these places, you got these big notification boards. We got a couple not far from where I live right now, and you know, they got those yellow letters. That'll be the first thing, because I mean, when you're in that area, you're gonna be looking for like road signs. So the road signs would say like road closed or don't go any further, hazard area. So you're gonna want like signage. You're also gonna want the media to be able to constantly give updates. Or coming back from Dallas after Hurricane Harvey, and the radio was talking nonstop, and for good reason, about here's what's going on. Here's people that were victimized by the storm. Here's the traffic going on there. Here's places to avoid. Things like that. And I'm thinking, you know, in a situation like that, you're going to be listening to your radio, and everybody's going to be trying to find out what's going on. So, I mean, like listening to the radio or having news bulletins on the TV, or things going out by text, things like that. You're going to want to have that going on, ready to go as well. So if something should happen, so those are going to be the key notification personnel that you're going to have, along with a spokesperson from the police department and the fire department and the hospitals.
Right. And I think official notifications are huge, because the news media, they, you know, if an event like this happens, they're going live and they're not going to commercial, and they've got to fill every second. So if they need to, they're going to interview Joe, who was on the street 4 blocks over from what happened, to get his expert opinion of the situation. And that's how false information gets out there. So as much as you can, you want your public information officer feeding them proper information, and more important, what's been out there. Because, you know, and then the other thing that media, I mean, I don't know if you guys are on Reddit at all, but as a police officer, and I mean, this is sad, but as a police officer, if something major happens, that's the first thing I go to is Reddit, because it's live updates from someone who was at the scene. There's pictures of things that are happening. I mean, I've been involved in a scene actively looking for a suspect who had just shot officers, and my picture showed up on Reddit literally 5 minutes after it happened of me searching a building. That's insane to me that technology is out there and exists, because that's something that needs to be monitored by the incident commander, or not the commander himself, but the staff. Like, I mean, someone needs to be monitoring that avenue.
Yeah, like a tech personnel there that's there to monitor things from a tech point of view. It's got all the monitors open to every technology thing possible, like Reddit, to see what's going on. When it's talking about like having the media out there, the people you do want, I would presume, correct me if I'm mistaken, you don't want them acting like they're the experts and everything, but you do want them to tell you what they saw, because they'd say, okay, we saw this guy, we saw what was going on. Like could they be wrong? Yes, but I mean, the more information that people can get as far as what these people saw, the more resources they can get. And it's like, oh, we saw this house on fire here, so you get you know where to direct things, because you got people on the ground saying, hey, this is what's been going on here. But I guess like social media, of course, would of course be better than the regular media, because that's actually people that were there that saw what was going on, posting things to where a female technology person from the command center can say, okay, we see this, and hey, get resources over there.
And there's also social media. I'm kind of a little bit going off on a tangent because I know we're talking about news media, but there's also really cool technology that it can capture like tweets and social media. Like, I'm not a social media person, but like it can actually capture live tweets that are happening in the area, and you can give a circumference of, hey, what's coming from this area from social media, and you can monitor what's being put out in real time. So if you've got several people tweeting about a certain situation that you want to check out, like Daniel mentioned, like a fire, you can put that into your action plan. Hey, we need to send someone here, because you can monitor it. It's amazing. So like I've used it before looking for suspects, because people will be like, hey, there's some random guy who just ran past me, and there's a ton of officers out here. So it exists, it's easy to use, and it is wonderful.
Plus, it takes a lot of time for the it does take time for the regular media to find the guy, talk to him, get it out there. Whereas the social media, all you have to do is maybe not use the computer, but maybe use your phone and say, okay, hey, I'm out here in the middle of the street. I just saw this guy running past me. It's like it doesn't take long at all. I mean, now, unless you're like me, where you have this phone, you're probably going to have better technology to where you can be able to, as moments notice, pull it out and get a video. Because I mean, videos are everywhere. I mean, everything's getting videotaped now. So I mean, instant. You get instant messaging and instant video as to everything that's going on. So that way, somebody at the command center can get people can use that to their advantage to help with the mitigation.
And I was gonna say, like with Snapchat now, which is like a video app, they now have like a map on it, so and you can like zoom in to any like part. So I could literally zoom into downtown Houston, and it'll show me people who are people who has a public Snapchat, and it'll show me what they're posting. Yeah. So if there was like let's say there was a bombing, and I zoom in on downtown Houston and I start clicking on it, if people are posting about it, it'll show me.
Yeah. And I mean, that's available to the public, I mean, that's pretty cool. But I mean, I'm sure the news media is going to monitor that as well. Right. And they're going to be getting their stuff from there as well.
Yes.
So.
All right. So the next one is decision making and leadership issues. And I feel like we discussed some leadership issues about like media spokespersons who we should allow on the scene. Because like you can't trust everybody. So you never really know who has good intention, who has bad intentions.
Right. And I think all that should be designated ahead of time in your incident action plan and all that stuff. I mean, it should be somebody who's obviously qualified, not the mayor. Forgive me, mayor, but you know, the mayor doesn't have the training and background to be able to make those sort of decisions. So yeah, for sure, you want those faces to be able to say, you know, hey, city of Houston, like Rudy Giuliani and 9/11, say what you will about him, but you know, he stepped up and did what he was supposed to do. He was that face of calm and reason and just guidance with all that chaos.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like the guy. Is like he was, again, and similarly with Governor Christie, he didn't act like he knew everything there is to know about a disaster. What he did do is he acted as a sturdy hand and as somebody that can help in his ways that he knows he can, but doesn't act like a know-it-all, thinking, oh, I know everything there is to know about this. I'm the mayor. I'm the governor. Whereas some mayors may feel like, oh, I need to interject every step of the way because I'm the mayor. I'm the guy that's supposed to be here. It's like, no, you don't know. You don't know triage from your elbow.
But you know, I think one thing that's important to say when it comes to like the decision making aspect of things is like when it is worst case scenario, like it is Joe Citizen making these decisions of life and death and things. It is that cop on the block. It's, you know, it's as much as we want to respond to this grand plan and this scheme of, you know, the radios might not work. There might be a million different reasons why we can't keep in communication. So I think it's important to note that decision making, yeah, there's two different levels. There's the overall big picture, but then there's like, I'm in there and I'm placing that triage on that one person's leg because I think they might live, but the other one might. And what direction do we tell people to run? That's another thing. You know, if we want people to evacuate, where are we evacuating? That's the decision that I make at that time because I don't have anybody telling me, hey, we've got this, you know, helicopter above and we can see here are the bad guys, so send them that way.
Right.
You know, so I think it needed to be said that decision making is varied when it comes to worst case scenario.
I agree. Okay, and the last one is I can't say the word. Operational periods or considerations in respect to staffing. So with the scenario, it says the recovery timeline is weeks to months, but during, I guess, in the actual event of a bombing explosion, I'm not sure how long it would take to actually clear the area or to, like, I guess, release the crime scene tape.
So, yeah, because in the readings, I think like the type 1 or 2 would be like 12 to 24 hours shifts or whatever, or however they divide that or say that. And then in a hazardous situation, it would be like 2 to 4 hours. But I would also factor in that, well, it is March, so I guess it's not necessarily that bad, but it is Houston and the weather is extreme one way or the other typically. So maybe March you'll get lucky, but you do have to factor in just fatigue in general. And I mean, just from, I've never experienced anything like that, but from seeing the pictures of 9/11, obviously much larger scale destruction. Well, let's say Oklahoma City. I don't know how you deal with that at, you know, more than 6 hours physically and emotionally.
Right.
I would say you would need to keep it, you know, somewhat limited in the very beginning where you can get new teams in there. Again, I don't know how realistic that is because if your transportation's limited, you might be stuck with what you've got down there already. But I would say in an ideal world, you would want to switch people out at least every 6 hours. And then as it got later into the recovery process, maybe you can do 12 or 24.
Yes, and now one of the advantages that a place like New York would have is that you also have the resources in New Jersey and Connecticut. Well, not necessarily in Manhattan, but like if you're in Manhattan, you have New Jersey available. So you do have resources with them as well. So you can get like Newark's police. You can get like all the police that can possibly come over from Jersey as well. Yeah, you don't necessarily have that. But what you do have is assuming that they're willing to help cooperate with it in a time of crisis, you can have other police departments from within the Houston Galveston area. You can have, as time goes on, like we saw with Harvey, where you had the Fort Worth police coming down to help relieve people. So that's something else that you do have the option of, is that you can designate authority and designate jurisdiction to these officers with the permission of the governor, to where they can come in as well to help alleviate the shift, which helps mitigate fatigue, because these people are going to be exhausted. So you want to have as many people there as possible.
Yeah, what they do, they actually, out-of-state officers, and with Harvey, there were, I mean, countless. It was amazing how many, and there were National Guard. There were a ton of different agencies were in here. But what they do is they'll assign you with an officer.
Some New Jersey police down too, might I add.
Yes. I actually met a few Jersey police officers, and a few Canadian Mounties actually that were there. It was a wide range that were helping. But what they do is they'll assign you to a local police officer. So you assist that police officer. So you can take action and you can effect arrest and things like that. But you're with someone who knows the area. You're with someone who knows the people, and you're not just partnered up in a vehicle and said, okay, now go forth and enforce the law.
Because Houston's a lot different than Newark. So I mean, or Atlantic City. So it's like these cops, God bless them for coming down, but they don't know the area. So that's why you'd want to have them with a local guy,
right?
Be able to get down here, or the Canadian, or the Mounties. The fact that they can get down here as quickly as they can certainly helps.
Right.
Mitigate the situation, helps with the investigation. Of course, the FBI would be involved with the investigation, so you have that going on. You have some federal input coming in, and then you never know and then the president, of course, has certain things that he can order into the area as well. So you do have resources available in that situation. The amount of time you have for that is another story.
Well, and I think a lot of it, if you want to, I know benefit is a bad word to use, but the benefit of our scenario, that it is so isolated, because I mean, yeah, it's huge, but you're talking within a couple blocks of your situation where the actual concentration of things are. So immediately what you need is emergency response. You need to get people out so that we can isolate the area, and then from there we've got time. You can get anybody you need to help there, because now you've gotten the situation contained and isolated. But I think immediately it's just whatever emergency transport treatment type personnel can get in there and help contain the situation in terms of the mitigating human damage. I don't know any other way to say that, but so like the human casualty aspect of things. And then once you get that, and that's going to happen quickly, that's going to be like by 4 hours, hopefully. I mean, if it's not if we're talking about the one bomb, like in Boston, I mean, you can get that cleared out in 4 hours. You can get those casualties out in 4 hours. If it's our scenario where there's multiple, you might have more issues, but you can get them moved within those 4 hours. Then the area's contained, and then we can start bringing in the investigative side of things and that sort of need, I guess. So you've got more time to bring in Jersey and the Mounties and whoever else. So
anybody else that would like to join in?
Sure. Yeah. And it's for Puerto Rico, we were actually offered the opportunity. We were able to apply to go and assist in Puerto Rico after the storm hit there. And my husband went, and he was, they actually, he took the oath as a Puerto Rican police officer. He's got his own badge and everything. So they were in a different scenario because their police force was so depleted that they actually took people and said, okay, you are now Puerto Rican police officers. And they went out and did. So, I mean, it was a little bit different for them because, I mean, you're on an island, you're isolated, and your resources are non-existent. So, you do what you need to do, I guess, to get through it. But
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So, is there anything else y'all would like to discuss? Or is
Well,
that everything?
I think we've covered everything for that. I just still think that, again, this may be a bit of a logistical situation, but like I said, when we were talking about the big doomsday scenario, because talking is asking us to look at a doomsday scenario, I still think that using aircraft to get to hospitals would be a very good idea. And of course, you'd have to also plan to, like I said, shut off the roads, because I mean the V-22s and Chavez, they don't need much to land on, but you never know how many aircraft you're going to need in the event that the major hospitals in that area, either the traffic's blocking them or the fact that you can't get people in there. You're going to want the aircraft can go a lot faster than a car.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So how many? So is this airplane like how many passengers could fit on this airplane?
It depends on it would depend on what would be being used. So for me, I was just thinking like, how is this? Because one thing is, like for example, you got a lot of Coast Guard planes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they of course they have of course planes capable of handling medical situations, correct?
Right.
And you have certain places like in Galveston that some hospitals aren't going to have enough room for a big plane, so you may need a. That's where like I said the V-22s and the choppers would come in, as many of those as you have available. I mean, hell, you can even use a news chopper if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Like just get something in there, and like just have a system where this chopper comes in, gets people out. This next person comes in, gets people out. Then from the hospital, they get in, they unload the guy, they get back on their way. So you just have an orderly situation where each hospital is being evenly distributed with people as evenly as possible, but you're using the aircraft in the best way that you can.
Right.
And how you can even use the grass near some of these places as runways if you have to. I don't care. Just get people in and out as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for the long distance transport, I definitely agree with you that not, I mean, there needs to be some other alternative besides just ambulances.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Aircraft. There's a reason we have life flight, and there's a reason that life flight exists. I said you have the Coast Guard over at Ellington. That's the next. Those would be the next people that I would mobilize because like I said they have the aircraft resources. They can be mobilized if needed as well, and they can use their aircraft to get people out too, which are equipped to be able to handle that kind of situation.
Uh-huh.
It's yeah, I like your idea. It's just a matter of medical personnel and all kinds of stuff. I mean, because it's saying here like 450 hospitalizations. That's not counting the fatalities. I mean, that's a lot, and it doesn't really do you any good to just load a bunch of people up onto a plane if there's nobody to take care of them. Because even if it's shorter transportation time, you still got to be treating people while you're transporting them. Life Flight has their staff to address that person. So, yeah, I mean, look, I'm all for whatever gets people to safety and security. I'm all for it. I just, I mean, that's a logistical thing I wouldn't even want to think about, trying to authorize certain planes to come in and certain planes to not come in and having to do that, considering what we know about planes.
I'm not talking about having a 747 land there. I'm talking about having a smaller plane.
I know. But, usually they close the airspace for a reason.
Sure.
So, I mean, like I said, that's beyond my logistical planning right there. I mean, that's something that's the decision that would have to be made way over my head because I wouldn't know how you would authorize a plane, how you would be able to say this one's okay, this one's not in that immediate situation, unless you're talking about like the external hospital evacuation.
And it would have to be like pre-planned too.
Right.
What roads are large enough to be able to handle them to where they can land, turn around, get people on, turn around, and take off again.
Right. To me, and again, sometimes you got to get people away. You've got to get people to Galveston. You got to get people elsewhere, and the way to do that is probably like a Life Flight type situation. But I don't know. I still feel like the good old road is the way to.
I agree, but if we're talking about a long distance situation,
sure.
I mean, the nice thing is, I mean, certainly I wouldn't want to really do this, but if I had to, I'd also try and get the Dallas and San Antonio hospitals and on standby as well, so that these aircraft can also go there if they have to. It's like, let's just get people there to a major hospital that they can get treated. It's like, if they have to go all the way to Dallas, so be it. It's not with a plane. It's not going to take that long to get them there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if it's me or my family member hurt, I definitely appreciate that sentiment for sure. You land whatever you need to, wherever you need to. And, that's how I feel. If you can save one person, and that's the way you do it.
Get them wherever you need to take them. And like I said, these planes would have Coast Guard people on there. They're medically trained people that can assist them that way. I said, just get them from that scene. I said, take them to New Jersey if you have to. Just take them somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, that is everything.
Okay. I mean, we didn't really specifically talk too much about the volunteers. I know it says something in the last little thing about the volunteers, but I don't know. I kind of feel like the volunteers are, they're part of the crowd, part of the situation. Right. But I mean, maybe potentially as part of the plan, you can give them a meeting point to where, hey, look, if we need to evacuate for any reason, come back to this location or whatever. And then maybe that way you can help mobilize them to help kind of with some external things.
Right.
And account for them, for one.
But as I was saying, though, you also want to be careful that you're not putting them in harm's way, too. Because, I mean, a lot of people would, including, well, it's easy to say that now, but, I mean, a lot of people would like to get in there and try and alleviate the situation as best they can. The problem is you never know how many other dangers there are, and you don't want to put too many people in there. That's part of the reason that you're telling me that the singing a lot of priests for the mental things not exactly a good thing to do at that time. Like, you want them ready, and I think the same is true with other volunteers. It's like, look, coordinate with us before you do anything. We're the professionals. Right. We'll handle it. If we need you, we'll let you know.
Yeah, that's why I would say give them a meeting point externally. Exactly. Give them a place to go, to get out, to come back and check their name off the list to say, no, I'm alive. Don't worry about looking for me. That sort of thing. So.
I mean, the only thing I would think a volunteer, an unauthorized volunteer would need to do is use his vehicle to get the guy to the hospital, to get the injured person to the hospital. But you don't want too many of them doing that either.
Right.
Because it's like, how is that guy going to notify the other person's family members and say, hey, I got the guy in my car. He's in the hospital. Don't worry about it. Say, at least with an ambulance or a chopper or something, you have ways of coordinating. Say, hey, we got the person. He's on the way to the hospital. Don't worry about it. We'll keep you up to date, but he's in good hands now.
Yes.
I mean, you don't want Joe Schmo and just picking up like a bunch of people, taking them to the hospital. It's like, oh wait, these people are missing. It's like, that's like, I would think that realizing there's people missing would be more terrifying than realizing there's people alive or dead, because you don't know where these missing people are.
Right. Yeah. And that's the only other thing I would say is, I mean, we didn't get too specific. I don't know how specific she wanted us to get, but I mean,
right.
I think
that's a huge task. As I was reading through everything for the week, I'm like, man, that's asking a lot to plan for the worst case scenario. There's so much involved that,
I think this is the easiest one that we've done, though.
Oh, it's the most fun, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But
next week's one will be this easy.
An operational plan and a reactive plan and all that, just all of that, the divisional plans and things. Yeah, it's great to do ahead of time, but man, worst case scenario, this is hard to sit here and just talk about. This is what we should do.
Because you don't know for sure what's going to happen. But, I mean, it's good to have at least an idea of what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So the next broadcast I do will be from New Jersey. Actually, I was thinking since we're pretty much done with this, what I was thinking would be kind of funny is that this is the first week that we're all in the same state. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm in Texas.
This is going to be the only week that we're all going to be in the same state. It's like, it would have been funny as if when you were still in California and Naria was still in the Bahamas and I was in New Jersey. Like, we're all in the same class, but none of us are in the state where the university is.
That's funny.
Like California, a different country, and then the Northeast.
Yeah. Well, all right, guys. Well, I look forward to seeing y'all again next week, and I guess we'll get together and get specifics worked out.
Yep. And if everything goes good, if I can manage to make this all work out, I'm going to see if I can get next week's video to actually be on the boardwalk. Like, I'd have to find a good charging point because my computer sucks.
Okay.
But other than that, and if I can manage to do that, that'd be really fun because I'd be able to show you guys how the boardwalk looks.
We'll definitely talk about it. We'll figure it out. Maybe we'll set it up a little early to make sure we can work all that out in time. So
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you.
I'll figure that part out, and I'll tell you where exactly I'll be. So I don't leave that to me. I'll figure because I'm going to be up there. I'm running there Friday. I'll be using the first day or so to look for a good spot to put that. Otherwise, I'll just go out the house then.
Yeah.
With the water park in the background.
Okay.
Like, this is New Jersey.
All right, guys. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good week.
That was fun.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, that went well.